Today is the anniversary of when my cockatiel passed away. Now he passed away on the 13th of July. Um, he was a great cockatiel apparently. The only problem was there was something wrong with him probably when he was still a well, as a baby still, growing up. Um, no, he didn't really last long. He was still a youngin. So he eventually died because of that. So then, right after that, we thought, straight away, okay, to get over the loss of losing a bird, which is actually in my back garden right now, we decided to get two budgies later on because of that. We ended up with two budgies, a male and a female, because they live longer and they're more better, easier to tame with budgies. They're not as violent as cockatiels. So we decided to name the two budgies Romeo and Juliet. The blue one is actually Romeo, and the other is Juliet. The So it's good that I have them. They keep me entertained. And they do intend to respond to my whistles. They love that. The one that does whistle the most is Romeo, because he's the cheeky one, the male. Yeah, so, before I got Romeo and Juliet, before I got the second Juliet, I had issues with the first Juliet. This was after Pikachu, apparently. She was ill. She wasn't recovering. She just slept in the dish a couple of times. So she kept sleeping, and then I decided, okay, gonna take her in, get another Julia in a place. So then these two budgies would replace Pikachu, the one that I lost 1 year ago. So it would make me happier, more excited, and it actually does. It keeps me entertained because they always show how happy they are, especially looking down at me sometimes, especially when they do escape from their cage. Now Julia is a bit funny with trying to get close, but they do actually end up on your finger or whatever. They do get used to it. Now Juliet has bit a couple of my family a couple times, but Romeo, he's been alright with me. Every single time I've handled him, he's been alright. He's like, okay, I'm tired. You can put me in now. And he allows me to do that. After chasing him a couple of times, and he's alright with it. Yeah, because he normally sometimes goes on my finger by himself when he's too tired. Sometimes he goes on the perch by himself and he allows it. Juliet's a bit funny because she doesn't. Sometimes it's the other way around. Romeo can be cheeky, and then Juliet would probably get tired and allow it. But with Pikachu, he seemed to be well, too noisy. Too noisy to be in the house, because if he was noisy in the cage, you could hear from upstairs, and you just squawk, 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 and squawk, and it would never shut up. And it used to drive us all insane. We used to tell him to shut up, because he wouldn't shut up. Apparently not even the mirrors helped calm him down. and a bunch of toys didn't really settle him down. So a bunch of that didn't actually calm him down. So the other thing it could have been that probably had Pikachu die was because of due to loneliness. But again, the cage I had was a bit too small for him. So after losing him, I thought, well, okay, it's big enough for the budgies because the budgies require a big cage. So if it was too big for a cockatiel, then it's the right size for budgies to live in together. Because they actually do intend to hop more budgies. They like that, like to stretch the wings out. Now with Pikachu, he couldn't actually stretch his wings out properly because he was a bit too big. The bird bath I had in the cage was a bit too small for him. But with the budgies, it's the right size for them. They like it. They're always happy, which is great. Especially being cheeky with a couple of balls I put in the cake in the bird bath. But sometimes it's Romeo and Juliet that does it. Sometimes it's the opposite way around. Sometimes Romeo's like say to Juliet, "Come on, you do it." And sometimes it's Juliet that says it, and he's like, "No, could you get this ball out for me?" A couple of instances, the balls end up in the food dish. All soaking wet, so I always have to clean them and then put them back in the water in the bird bath again, which is pretty hilarious for them. It's pretty funny. And apparently I did say, if anything changed with the environment or something, like we got some sort of bird aviary out the back garden, then they could possibly go in there, I think, since it would be a bit big enough for them. And then we'd have to think about their breeding methods because they breed during October or mainly during raining season. They mainly do it in raining season. But the best chance to mate them is like when they turn 1 year old. That's the best time to breed them since that's the right age. They also have to be sprayed with water to signal them that it's main season. A couple of other things with them as well is they need a nest box and they need well, they're very secretive birds. They like to hide what they're doing. They like to do it in private to lay eggs in private. So that's basically them. Yeah, so that would give them a bit more flight, which I don't know when I'll probably do it though, to do them, since they can't really do it in their own cage because it's not actually big enough to breed, to do with a nest box in there because again the cage is just a bit too small for that. But I possibly might do it in the future. Maybe. Depending on what goes on with them. Now, the other point is, I don't think I'd possibly get another cockatiel. Looking after them is a bit too hard to handle. It's a bit harder than raising a budgie, to be honest. They're a lot, well, if they turn on you, it turn vicious. They could easily bite a chunk out of you, and you could end up bleeding. And Pikachu's actually done that. When a couple of times I've given him a bath, he used to bite. He hated that. Because he never actually had a cooling thing with him. Never actually had a proper actual bird bath where he could actually bath himself. He was getting dirty and such, which was trickier. He basically, yeah. So, yeah, so reminders for bird owners, if you want a beginning bird, I would suggest a budgie, since they are very reliable on people, easier to tame. Even though I haven't really got to the taming method because I'm a bit lazy. Um, Probably because they don't have the right environment for them. I can't actually train them properly with that sort of environment yet. So I think once I get an aviary going for them in the back garden, then they'll be able to fly and then I'll be able to stay in that aviary with them, allow them to perch on me or whatever. Now, thing with Romeo, he's quite brilliant when it comes to perching. He's done it a couple times. I tend to catch him. Sometimes he's landed on me and I've actually got him straight away. No, he is a bit. He actually is, but more tame than Juliet because I did get him first before Juliet, which is great. So yeah. The other birds you can get, which are a bit easier to tame, is well, like canaries. Canaries can be a bit easier to tame because they're just similar to budgies in a way. Small, and they could be able to be able to train better. Um, there is other birds, but no, the beaks are a bit too sharp. The other birds you can raise is pigeons. Pigeons can be raised, but they need a bigger, uh, well, they need a better sort of cage or whatever for them, like a bit bigger. So, like an aviary sort of thing, where they'll be able to stretch their wings better. Now, my grandma used to keep pigeons years ago. We kept a couple, well, more than a couple. Whenever they were let out of their cage, they used to fly over to where my granddad was as a kid, and they used to follow him all the way home. I'm not lying. It was pretty funny. No, he did have a couple of white pigeons. He had one that was probably a bit of a nipping sort of pigeon. They did actually get used to him. These also had um, a couple of other birds. Can't really say what, but one bird's been on my mind, but I can't. Well, two birds, but I can't really keep them because you need a bigger house. To tame them. They do take a lot of patience since they live longer and such. And that is a parrot, not just any parrot. The two parrots is a cockatoo and a macaw, since they are harder to tame since they're a bit bigger. But again, if you had a bigger house, you'd be able to tame them. Which reason why a lot of them end up in the bird shops because they're unable to people are unable to keep them due to spending too much money on them. Um, so that's one. Yeah, so I would really recommend getting a budgie. It's easier to tame better than a cockatiel and such. You don't spend as much money on them as you do as the bigger ones. Since they live about to 15 years or more, depending on how well they are, depending on how well they live, how what their diet's like, how healthy they are. Um, now, my grandma used to keep two cockatiels. Apparently, they lived well. The female didn't really live that long, but the male actually did. He lived up to about, oh god, I can't remember, but he lived a long time. Which wasn't normal for his age. And the two cockatiels that he had years ago was Kiki, which actually died when I was a kid, and Coco, which is the boy, which lived a long time. Uh, so yeah. Now the problem with Coco years ago, when my granddad had him, he was more aggressive than Pikachu was. He had an aggressive attitude. You wouldn't want to touch him. Also, really tame him. He always had a claw in his cage constantly because he wouldn't stop his noise or whatever. So that's basically what he was like. Yeah. So yeah, they're very hard to tame. If you basically want a tail or a big cage, it's completely massive to them because so they'll allow them to bond better with you. I did try to get mine clipped, but which sort of helped with allowing him to sit on you or whatever. Um, which allows it, but they tend to hate you for that. No, I didn't do it with the budgies. Now the budgies were a bit better, because it didn't really clip them, and they're like, yeah, okay, I respect you, I respect what you're doing, you're giving me food every day, you're changing my water. Um, Now when we basically escape, they're like, okay, you're doing this to me, you give me and this, they're always happy. So yeah, try if you've got really good bird experience, for example, and you've got a bigger house, and such, then get a bigger bird. But again, you might need a bigger cage, one that be able for them to fly around, like a cockatiel and a macaw or whatever. Make sure it's completely massive for them. For a cockatoo and a macaw, I would say more of an aviary for them to fly. Same thing for a cockatiel since they're a bit bigger than usual. Unless you've got like a massive cage, which is bigger than the ones you see in the shops. Or if you don't have any of that, then your best bet is actually a budgie. Um, so yeah. So yeah, that's all I've got to say.